Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to make a guide for the shop for the middle to late game. This is going to be my own personal information, kind of the stuff that I'm grinding for. Should apply to most of you and hopefully guide you in the right direction. So let's get right into it. We're going to look at the grocery store first. In my opinion, you shouldn't be spending diamonds on anything here except for the Stormlight Plume. You should definitely buy one of these every single day. I've been doing that pretty much from the early game on. It's really important to get that Stormlight Plume grind going on as early as possible because it gets exponentially more expensive as you go. For the Morningstar store, we're not going to talk about this at all because you shouldn't use it, in my opinion. Way overpriced, the rewards aren't worth it. Unless you're super pay to win and you just have thousands of orbs to waste, sure. But really, it's just not worth it in my opinion. Alright, for the Tower store. Now, this does depend a little bit, so Spirit Pet Eggs are always a good buy, especially if you are grinding for pets. Here I've got a Night Eclipse, a 1-star Marge. I'm kind of good grinding for pets for a while. I've just been relying on the free eggs that I get, using up my shards and just kind of waiting, taking it slow and not really stressing about it too much because there are some other things I can focus on now that I have some really solid pets. So after that point, we don't really want to spend on plume or artifact essence. You're going to get a lot of plume from the arena and some other random rewards. Artifact essence also is kind of useless middle to late game. You're going to have a full treasure house of pretty much red artifacts at some point, and as you can see here, I just have an excess of essence that I pretty much will never use. Definitely not worth buying. And then also the team challenge tickets. So I think you should buy 2 of those every single time the shop resets. It's 1,200 coins per week, which you should be getting about that much per day, maybe like 1,000, somewhere around there. Go ahead and buy both of those. And then with the rest of your coins, we're going to look at these 6 items, actually 5. We're not going to count star stones. I've said this before in other videos, the RNG for star stones is absolutely insane. Not worth it at all. You most likely are not going to be getting that polish, and if you do, it's going to be from just the free star stones that you get from other events randomly. So I highly recommend you do not buy these. As for these other 5 items, I think origin stones are definitely not a great buy, but not necessary in my opinion. For a while I was hard grinding them because I wanted the High King title. Again, I don't recommend that. It doesn't give really any stats at all for that title, and leveling up your origin stones just isn't as important as some other things here. Alright, for enhancement stones, you definitely can grind these out if you want. That's not the best purchase, but if you don't have all of your gear to plus 15 and have the processing table unlocked, it's definitely a good thing to grind for. And this is going to tie into the guild store a little bit. So if you are focusing enhancement stones, trying to get to plus 15, you should focus the dwarf craft books with your melee medals. Kind of tie in together. The percentages are down to like 5 or 10%. You're going to want that boost. Honestly, just go for the 100% chance with books to get it to that from 14 to 15 or 9 to 10 or wherever you're at. Now, you can also go for void pupils. Those are going to be very strong for getting higher percentages on your artifact, increasing your main stat. And then also for getting your tier upgraded on your artifact. So at some point I probably will start grinding those a bit because I really want this tier 8. This BB conversion is very strong. It'll increase your damage by a ton. So definitely something you could focus on. And then we have Sparkling Ink. This is really going to be mainly important for getting your card to 6 or even 7 stars. Honestly, I think once you hit 6 stars, it kind of depends. So it increases the level of your skill, which is very strong. But it becomes very difficult and very expensive to increase your level even to 6 stars. So once I get my main card to 6, which I actually did with my Gemini here before I switched, I stopped focusing Zodiacs completely. It's really just not the most important grind. So you could definitely grind up Sparkling Ink until you get to that point. And then after that, we're going to talk about Dew. This is going to tie into the guild store and the Scarlet shop. So if you're at the point where you want to start grinding out your sacred tree, the focuses are going to be Dew in the tower store, the silver twigs in the guild store, and then I guess this is a little different, but the lapis for your statue. I guess I'll talk about that afterwards. So again, when you're grinding up Dew, you're going to probably want to be grinding up your silver twigs too. And if you're not grinding out enhancing your equipment, you won't really need these dwarf craft books. So your melee medals can pretty much all go towards silver twigs. Getting these extraordinary orbs are not a huge boost. They're not really that important. So silver twigs are a really good use of your melee medals. All right, that's pretty much it for the tower store. I'm gonna skip the guild store for now and go to the Scarlet shop. Pretty much everything here is really overpriced in my opinion, even the spirit pet eggs. You're only gonna get about 5,000 Scarlet Essence per day. 5 spirit pet eggs is not really great. The two main focuses are going to be the Stormlight Plume and your Lapis. Now, Stormlight Plume, in my opinion, is the best buy for this. You get 1 per day, in addition to the one from the grocery store, and then some that you'll get from Arena. It's going to become a serious grind, especially in the late game, and I can show you here for 200 wings, I need 140 of them, so definitely a good use. And otherwise, if you're grinding out your statue, the Lapis is a great buy. 5 of these per day, very strong, and that's going to tie in a little bit to the guild store, which I can talk about now. So kind of on a side note, I'm going to try and explain this to the best of my ability. You kind of want to bounce your focus between certain things. So instead of really just focusing your statue like I was doing for some time, you can see here it hit a certain point where it requires 60 sparks, and I believe that's 72,000 guild medals, which is a lot. So once you kind of get to that point where your statue is getting really expensive, you're going to want to focus on the toolkits, especially if you have your processing table unlocked, of course. None of these items are good buys at all. I don't recommend these. Guild medals are really difficult to come by. So this is just honestly, in my opinion, a big waste to use your guild medals on these 6 items here. Spirit pet contracts, kind of also pretty much a waste. I wouldn't recommend that at all. So the only 2 things really, in my opinion, to focus on in the guild store for guild medals are going to be the sparks and the toolkits. So kind of the way you want to do it is whichever one is cheaper, right? So like I said earlier, it's 72,000 guild medals for my statue. But for my processing table, I only need 20 of these toolkits, which I believe is 20,000 guild medals. Right here, you get 5 apiece for 5,000, so 20,000 total. The processing table gives really good stat increases, so you want to focus that. Once it gets to the point where it's maybe a little bit more expensive than my statue, then I'll start focusing the statue. And also just to mention the team challenge tickets, you certainly can buy them if you want. I personally think it's a waste. It's probably better, in my opinion, to just wait a couple more rotations, just keep buying them in the tower store. It's gonna take a little bit longer for you to grind up enough to grab top 10 or first place, but definitely worth it to save up those guild medals for the sparks and toolkits. All right, that's pretty much everything, I guess. I hope that made sense to you guys and was helpful. If you got any questions, you can leave them in the comments. If I forgot to mention something, feel free to let me know. I appreciate the support for the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.